Hi, I'm Paul Friedman, founder of the Marriage Foundation, and the topic today is, am I crazy to forgive him? Hi, welcome back. And this holiday season, we're giving a very special discount to those of you who are our loyal subscribers. So if you go to the link below, you'll save a great deal on the online course, and that's either for men or for women. Okay, welcome back. I'm Paul Friedman, founder of the Marriage Foundation, and this topic is a really deep topic, but it's a very important topic within the context of your marriage. And this topic is, am I crazy to forgive him? And one day there was a saint who was really bothered by somebody. They harassed the saint. This person harassed the saint constantly and did evil things to the saint, tried to destroy the saint's life over and over and over and over again. And so the saint, with frustration, went to God and said, Lord, how many times must I forgive this vile individual? And God said to the saint, how many times have I forgiven you? It's very deep, isn't it? How many times have I forgiven you? Now, we may think that, well, that's a saint, and this is God speaking to the saint, the story I just told you. What the heck does that have to do with my marriage? And this is what's missing in our world today, is a lack of understanding of the depth and breadth of what marriage is intended to be, and how you could live your marriage in accordance with the highest divine principles. And why do I say that? Because divinity is not a stretch of a word when it comes to marriage. Your marriage is all about, and think about this, well, you won't have to because it's obvious, your marriage is about love. When I first started to work with couples, in fact, before my very first couple, I used to be a divorce mediator, and in 2001, a couple asked me to help them save their marriage instead of end it. And I thought, well, I have to do some research, give me a few months. And so what I did was I asked people, why did you get married in the first place? And literally every single person said, well, I fell in love with her. I fell in love with him. Every single person. And I thought, well, clearly people get married because they fell in love. But we all have heard about people who fall out of love, and we wonder, does my husband still love me even? Do I really still love him? He's so hard on me, picks on me for no reason whatsoever. He'll start down this path and won't leave me alone. Very harsh. Do I really still love him? Does he really still love me? Am I able to forgive him? Well, but back then, you ignored his flaws because you married him because you fell in love with him. And that falling in love with him wasn't like, I fell in love. Really, in reality, it was more like your heart opened up to him and his heart opened up to you. And now you had this connection of love. Isn't it so? This connection of love. And why is that so important? Because it makes us very happy. You know, if you think about it, there's only one craving that every single human being has. And that's the craving for happiness. Everything, even the most evil person, does things in order to be happy. Now, oftentimes, we do things to make us happy, and it's like eating poison fruit. You know, people succumb to temptation, and what happens is they don't get the promised happiness. Instead, they get misery. And the problem is that in our world, because we don't have good teachings for marriage until now, I've actually developed them, and that's what the Marriage Foundation is all about. We don't have an understanding of marriage. Let's imagine marriage as a vehicle for happiness, a vehicle for love, a vehicle for harmony. Think of it in those terms. Well, if it was a vehicle for getting from point A to point B materially, like driving across town, no problem. We learned all about cars and we learned all about the rules of the road. But for marriage, we didn't learn all about marriage. We don't even know ourselves and how we are in marriage, how we're supposed to be, how the husband is supposed to be or the wife is supposed to be. This is like unknown territory, which is amazing when you think about it, because there's all of these marriage experts out there telling you what to do here, what to do there, but they don't hit you with the basics. They don't say the reason you got married is to be happy. And the way to be happy is by expressing love. But before you can express love, you have to feel love. And in order to feel love, we need to learn how to cultivate that love. And we need to cultivate it from within so that it can flow outwardly to our soulmate. Where have you heard this before? You haven't. And so this brings us back to marriage being divine, because we get married for love. What is love? If you look it up again in this world is kind of backwards. If you look it up, what is love, you'll find Google will tell you, and so will the other search engines, and so will the dictionaries, will tell you that all love is an increased like. It's an emotion. But you actually know better. An emotion comes and goes. It's fleeting. Sometimes it's up, sometimes it's down. But this love that you feel for your soulmate springs from the heart. It's a universal connection, not just to your soulmate, but even to God. And that's what makes it divine. And so what we do is we learn how to love unconditionally. The very purpose of marriage is to learn how to love unconditionally so that we could experience that love that flows through us and joins us. Now, most of us have a selfish concept of marriage. We get married because we want to be loved. What we don't realize is that by giving love, that's how we feel love. In fact, because of how our minds are constructed, we don't even feel love from another person. We see indicators that they love us, but the only time we really feel that love is when we open the door of our heart and spread that love. Well, what is forgiveness? Let's go back to the topic. How many times must I forgive my husband? And think about what forgiveness is. Forgiveness is an act of love, isn't it? It's a way of expressing from the heart that no matter what he did, you're not going to stop loving him. And how do we get to that point? How do we override the mind? How do we override the fear that we will be abused if we do that? How do we override the fear of losing ourselves in this? Well, the truth is we're supposed to lose ourselves, not to our spouse, not to our husband, our soulmate. We're supposed to lose ourselves to love. We literally should be striving to love our soulmate so that we could learn to love, so that we could experience the joy from that love on a constant basis. And it takes cultivation, and it takes a blueprint, it takes guidance, which is why I've written 2 books, Lessons for a Happy Marriage, and I've written also Breaking the Cycle. I wrote Lessons for a Happy Marriage. That was my first book, and it was for individuals. And then later on, I wanted to train marriage counselors, which I did. And if you look up in the search, you look up Jerry, you'll find the video of when I had my very first group of psychologists, of therapists in San Diego. That's where I was. And I believe it was in 2010 or 2011, and I was training them. And they asked to see one of my clients. So they get a perspective of what my client has to say about the teachings that I put out. And Jerry is a very cool guy. I mean, I haven't seen him in many, many years. Again, this is 15 years ago. So Jerry came to the group and he talked about his experiences when he was working with me. And admittedly, I was a little rough on him. I tend to be rougher on the men than the ladies because, honestly, ladies listen better. And he stood in front of the group. I think I had about 13 or 14 marriage counselors there, and they were mesmerized because Jerry got up there and he said, you know, I was ready to punch Paul. I didn't like him for what he had to say, but he was right. Jerry was an airline pilot. I don't know what he is now, but my point is this. The teachings that I discovered are beautiful because they orient marriage around the very core of happiness itself, which is love. And so forgiveness is love. Now, I don't ask you to forgive just because you're supposed to. What I ask you instead is to learn, and I can teach you, learn how to cultivate in your heart that love so that when you do forgive, it comes naturally. Now, in the meantime, should you forgive anyway, even though you're really not in that place? And the answer is you do the very best you can. It's a matter of evolution, you might say, a maturation where we mature as individuals. And into what? What does that mean to mature? It means to learn how to love. And we learn how to use our marriage in order to learn how to. It's a setup, if you want to know the truth. Marriage is a setup for the most positive, loving happiness you'll ever have anytime, anywhere. Better than with your children when you know how. And so that's what it's all about. It's all about getting marriage educated, learning these things, following the pathway towards a happy marriage. Because you're not going to fix your husband. You can't say to him, I'll forgive you if. That doesn't work. Simply doesn't work. You can't say to yourself, well, if he changes, I will forgive him. That doesn't work. Remember, the goal is to open your heart, to fill your marriage with that love. And then will he change? Usually, but you can't do it for that reason, or it's not real. You have to be real. Being real doesn't mean being mean when you're feeling angry. That's not what real is. Being real is being who you really are beneath your fears, your angers, your reactive mind. That's being real. And what is that reality? That reality is love, joy. That's it. I'm Paul Friedman. I founded the Marriage Foundation. We're here to help you. So don't be afraid to go to our website. You can ask a counselor. It's free. You could sign up for the course. You can read one of my books. If you want to watch these videos, we produce them every single day. Just subscribe. Like the video if you do so. Share it if you want to help other people. And other than that, God bless you and take care.